It's GTA 6. Everything about this game is bullshit because it's going to work, because it's going to sell, because people are going to use it.
Hello and welcome back to Gamified 166. I'm your host, Sam Stefanina, and today I am joined by, first up, this man runs the Digital Collectors Club and came through Magic Eden, so he spent his whole career on the exact same thing this industry is about to abolish this week, owning your stuff. It's Knock.
We need to own our things, Sam, and I'm going to argue it all episode long.
I look forward to that. Up next, he ran consumer products and games at two of the biggest entertainment companies on earth, back to back, Disney and NBC Universal, telling us how billion-dollar franchises decide whether games are worth greenlighting. It is Mr. Chris Heatherly.
Thumbs up to you.
Thanks, bud. That validation is really going to carry me for the next 2 hours. Next, building game cred, which helps indie and AA studios build the early traction and market signals like community and wish lists that they need that actually land with publisher deals. So he lives every single day in the indie grind. It is Mr. Will Spangler.
Personally, Knock, I'm excited to own nothing, live in a pod, eat bugs, all of that. I think that's exactly what we need.
And founder of Think Tank, and before that, she built Electronic Arts' first research department and its hits prediction machine over 6 years across more than 100 franchises. Joining us for the very first time, we're lucky to have Robin Boyar.
All right, I am super excited to be with you all. And if we're living in a simulation, then it doesn't really matter if we have physical goods, right?
So true.
That's right. And it doesn't matter if I'm eating bugs along the way. Great to have you, Robin. Excited for that. And welcome back to the founder and CEO of GameFam, which quietly runs some of the biggest games on Roblox with over 30 billion lifetime visits and dozens of titles. Something tells me we got to update those numbers soon. Welcome back to Joe Ferenc.
Thank you. And just to be clear, two things. One, I'm no longer the CEO of GameFam, as you probably know. Let's make sure that we all are clear on that. I am happily left the company in great place and now an independent investor, advisor, and board member to Roblox Studios. But I wanted to say that I've done some deep research, by which I mean sitting down at dinner and Googling some stuff about if we're living in a simulation. And the answer is it's almost extremely impossible that we are living in a simulation by my measure. So take some comfort in that.
My takeaway is that you're still Googling stuff instead of just asking ChatGPT, which is impressive. That's a lot more effort.
No, actually, I was on Gemini. I was on Gemini. Yeah.
And last but not least, we got the bench warmer from Battle Trade, my absolute favorite. Dub, always willing to come in a pitch. Colin, unfortunately, couldn't join us, so we're welcomed back by Dub.
Dude, run it back. I wish it was a simulation, I guess. I don't know, dude. And also, if we don't need DVDs, why do we need discs for our video games these days, dude? It's simple as that.
It's true. It would feel a lot lower stakes if it was a simulation. You know, I could relax a little bit, finally. But with that being said, let's get into topic number one. The AI stigma. I'm asking my panelists to pick a side, consumer or creator. A data analyst, named Ross Burton at Game Oracle published a hard number on something everyone suspected: putting AI in your game hurts sales. He looked at about 10,000 different Steam games, and the ones that disclosed AI use pulled about 53% fewer reviews, and reviews are the best public stand-in that we have for actual sales, unless those numbers are publicly reported, which often they are not. But the pain is not spread evenly. For low-quality shovelware, AI made no difference. But for studios with real track records, the drop was 40 to 60%, again, in sales. Tim Sweeney and Epic called the label a scarlet letter on Steam that kills developers. And a separate survey found 9 out of 10 developers want more disclosure. The industry seems to be at war with itself. I'm asking my panelists, again, pick a side. I'm going to go around the horn first, asking consumer or creator. Before I do that, though, I just want to be clear. This data is from late 2025, which already makes it extremely old in the age of AI, and also is a pretty limited set of data. With that being said, I still think it's a good conversation starter, whether you're on the consumer or creator side. Consumers obviously want more tools and to be able to make things faster for less money, and the creators, the consumers is what I should be saying, is the people that want great artistic games that are fun to play. And unfortunately, they feel like AI is prohibitive in that. Chris, I'm starting with you, consumer or creator side?
Creator.
I'm going to go consumer.
I think this question is irrelevant in my segment of the gaming business. There is no distinction between creators, consumers, and no one cares whether you're using AI or not.
Wow, he has risen above the question itself. Knock.
No, we're going creators.
Consumers all the way.
Consumers
Hell yeah.
all the way. I like that. Let's go to Mr. Joe Frentz on that note. Joe, why are you rising above this question completely?
Because in the area of the business I work in, which is Roblox and user-generated content, using any and every available tool to make your content as quickly and as efficiently as possible is par for the course. There's not a single Roblox creator who I know who is not using AI for as many things as they can use it for. So because everyone is using it, the idea of players rejecting it is irrelevant. And because the players are taking games that they find in the algorithm and not making necessarily kind of research-driven decisions around what games they want to play, they are completely unaware of whether there is AI in any given game anyway. So the whole thing, when you look at the Gen Z and the Gen Alpha developers and players, this isn't even a question. This is kind of like some of the employee stuff that I think is really important that we see in the United States, that in China, they don't even know what you're talking about when you bring this stuff up. That's how AI is in the Roblox space. People wouldn't even understand why you were asking these kind of questions.
Does that mean, Joe, just quickly, that you would be in favor of Steam removing that sort of scarlet letter of this has AI in it label?
I think that from a creator perspective and a purely conceptual perspective, it's hard to pigeonhole AI as an unfair or unethical tool, depending on how you're using it relative to other tools that you may be using. So if you use generative fill in Photoshop, is that AI? If you're using Google to find relevant information you need and it's automatically pulling up Gemini, are you supposed to turn Gemini off? This is an extremely political discussion, and the politics of it are important, and the consumer fear around AI is real and valid. That being said, how do you necessarily message that, and what are the parameters by which you define what AI is being used? Those are questions that I don't have enough insight into Valve's data and Valve's goals with this to really opine on. But I do think it can't be properly and accurately enforced based on what I'm seeing.
I'd be inclined to agree with you there. Chris Heatherly tagging you in that we're going to Will's.
Well, I think I coined the term scarlet letter, and then Tim Sweeney took it from me. I think what Joe just said, shows you that when there is no scarlet letter, people don't care, and that the scarlet letter serves the purpose that I always said it did, which is to tell people to hate these games when they really didn't have a reason to hate them. But I found a solution that I think should make everyone happy, which is that instead of the scarlet letter, I want to replace it with the handmade games label. And therefore, and then game developers who don't want to use AI can use the handmade games label, but they have to certify that they're not using AI at all in their games, which wouldn't be a problem if they're not using AI, right? So they get to virtue signal, and everyone else gets to use AI to the degree that makes sense for their game.
Well, I just want to add one. I want to add to that, which is that I think if you look at Valve and what they're trying to do, they're a consumer platform at the end of the day. They make money by selling things to consumers, right? So from a business perspective, if that's what consumers want, if consumers want to know what is using AI, then I think Valve is in their rights to make their best effort to communicate that to consumers so consumers can vote with their dollars around this issue.
Yeah, it's interesting, Chris, to hear that you're kind of flipping it. Instead of saying we're going to put the label on the AI thing, let's instead give you a differentiator on the handcrafted artisanal angle instead, which we have to assume in the next year or two is going to become the vast minority of games that are exclusively used.
Yeah, instead of a negative, make it a positive. That's what I'm saying.
Yeah, I like that. Wills, you're up next.
Yeah, look, I think Joe really hit the nail on the head. It is really a consumer preference, because the difference between sort of other products where everyone is using AI and games is entirely an entertainment. It's entirely voluntary. People are spending their money on something that they absolutely do not need to. It is entirely consumer driven. Every decision about your game should be consumer driven. And I think that that's why we're seeing this especially blow up in the indie space as well, is because, you know, you can say that, oh yeah, there are thousands of games on Steam. Most of those games suck, hands down. Like the majority of the 20,000 games that come out on Steam aren't that good. And I think that this is, for Valve, a further way to kind of allow users to wade through that kind of swamp of mediocre games and games that are going to speak to them. Do I think this necessarily is going to have an effect on how, you know, AI is used in games in the long run? No. But at the end of the day, there is going to be, as Chris said, an audience who wants to really focus on handcrafted games and handcrafted experiences. Do I think that definition is going to evolve over time? Absolutely. But at the end of the day, you know, we're in a consumer-driven business. Like, there's no real reason that we can tell consumers what they should want and what they should not. It's really like, until they're ready to accept this kind of change and the game's being made in a certain way, you can't convince someone to buy something. So at the end of the day, we really don't have a choice.
Thought for a second an LLM might have poison pilled my boy.
Actually.
Let's go to Dub, then we'll tag in Robin.
Yeah, what I want to add to it is, like, I think the core problem has been that on the consumer side, they thought like, oh, it's taking jobs, you know, the artists, the devs, they're out of here. But why I like land on the creator side of this argument for this is because in other industries, like Ford, for example, has just brought back a bunch of senior engineers that they tried to replace with AI. So like, I think time will kind of heal this argument, and we'll see like where it makes sense. Studios are going to have to like spend more, bring back devs, bring back artists, like for that handmade segment that Wills was talking about. So that's why it's like, I think, let the people creating and trying to build stuff right now just go loose and try to do it with all the things that we have available to us, because it's about finding that ceiling and seeing what we can do. And yeah, we might have like went too far and brought on too many robots and had less humans, but I think that can easily be brought back. And that's where like we'll see like a good equilibrium, and this argument will kind of dwindle away.
Just to jump in there, I think Dub brings up a really good point on the job replacement front, because I think that's like one of the biggest arguments that the anti-AI crowd have. And I think it's kind of funny because just to make the creator argument for a second, because the jobs that they're claiming that people are losing are the ones that are being lost, period, whether you buy them or not. It's the massive amounts of layoffs from Xbox, from PlayStation, from Bungie, from Epic, all of these things we're seeing across the industry. And then they're asking the indie teams who have much smaller budgets and much smaller teams to shoulder that burden of creating their own products. So I think right now it's at a really unsustainable place where they're asking the weakest positioned people in the industry to take this hit and to burden these costs, and attacking them the most for using these tools that actually allow them to make games. So that's I would say is the darker side of the consumer argument.
Yeah, really important points to call out there. Let's tag in Robin, who's alongside with you on the consumer piece of this. Robin, why did you pick the consumers over the creators here?
Yeah, you know, it's interesting because I do a lot of work that's not necessarily in gaming, but also in media and tech. And so to Dub's point, a lot of the fear, and there's just a huge fear culture around AI right now, just across all consumers, right? So if you think about it, the average consumer does not really know, or in the average gamer does not really know how games and tech are built, right? And if you use a Scarlet Letter analogy, like the only reason why the townspeople got really pissed off at Hester Prynne is that like she had a baby. If she had just been, you know, mucking around, nobody would have known anything. They would have been fine with her, right? And so that's the equivalent, is that, you know, consumers really don't know how games are made. To Joe's point, to Dub's point, like, you know, they're just scared because they're afraid of jobs being lost. And then culturally, my last point is that we are having this backlash against tech. And so you're seeing it not only with like trad wives and this whole like, I want to, you know, remove every screen from my, life. So that's part of the other backlash. So I think it's going to have to play itself out. I don't think Steam has done any favors with this Scarlet Letter. It's just going to have to just work its way out until consumers understand AI a little bit more.
Chris, I saw you light up in the middle of that, and then I'll send it to Knock.
Yeah, I was just going to say on the jobs thing, because it's come up a couple times. I think what people are not estimating is how many jobs have been lost in the U.S. because of overseas sourcing. And I've said it many times, but where the jobs are being lost is to Asia, right? But a lot of these studios that were forced because of cost or whatever to do distributed development, with AI, they're going to bring those jobs back to the US or to wherever they are, Europe, wherever they're developing, because there's a real cost that comes with distributed development, because you don't have the team all working at the same time. They're working at different times a day. They're communicating through Slack and, maybe an hour or two overlap. Like if you're working with India, it's very hard on the West Coast to get any kind of overlap with India, for example. So I think that people are underestimating the degree to which this will help game teams come back into some of these places where jobs have been lost.
That's a great piece of nuance there. I remember at one point I was working with a C-suite where there was 2 people in America, there was 1 person in Australia, there was 1 person in Southeast Asia, and there was 1 person in Europe. And it was literally impossible for us to find a time where everybody could meet together. And I was like, guys, I think there's a foundational problem here. We might need to make some adjustments. Not tagging you in.
The hilarity here for me is that the Scarlet Letter was originally written as an attempt to expose hypocrisy in like Puritan nature, and that's literally what's being used here to be applied to like these AI products. It's this bullshit. Oh, we need games to be handcrafted, and we need non-GMO foods, and we need this and we need that. But I'm eating a bowl of strawberries in Toronto in January. Like it is stupidity for people to sort of argue these things, and I think what is actually happening here is, Tim is correct in saying that this is hurting games because there is no distinction on how AI is used in the game. I agree. The idea that somebody can, over the course of a weekend, completely create it, maybe you want to have a label on a game that is made 100% with AI. I disagree with that sentiment, but I can at least understand the argument. I strongly disagree with the sense that like Crimson Desert should be labeled as a game that uses AI because they put a couple placeholder items on paintings in a house, 4.5 hour walk in game time away from the city that you're actually transmitting through. Like, it doesn't matter. Like, there's no reason for that painting to be hand drawn. I think the reason why people are mad about AI is because they've been told to be mad about AI. They don't understand it. It's this big scary thing. So now we have a reason to be pissed off at something. And on the jobs front, what's going to happen is, layoffs are going to happen. This is happening across every industry. You're going to see a flattening of organizations. You're going to see massive layoffs in a bunch of these organizations. But AI empowers smaller teams of 3 or 4 to do the jobs of 10 or 15 or 20 10 years ago. And while the organizations might get smaller themselves, you're going to see a lot more of them. So we're going to have more games coming to the market with more teams getting to share their story and their vision. I think it's a net positive. The letter is bullshit. It's Valve playing to the fears of their audience. And the minute that it serves them to play to a different fear, they're going to do that as well.
Great take. To finish it up, let's move on. Topic number 2, physical discs are dead. Big deal, little deal, no deal. Sony made it official this week, starting January 2028, that they're ending the physical disc production for all new PlayStation games. After that date, every new game from Sony and third parties will ship digital only. Everything released before 2028 is safe, and Sony says it will still put something on store shelves, probably a box with a download code inside, but the disc as we know it is done. And supposedly, this is not just Sony. This hasn't been announced by Xbox, but many third-party outlets are reporting right now that Project Helix is rumored to drop the disk drive entirely. Though I want to flag, again, that is a rumor. Nobody is going to argue that digital is not winning, but a disc you own, a download you are only licensing. This comes off the back of Sony removing some downloads that people had already purchased in the past. They're already closing some stores like ones on PlayStation 3. So this all comes kind of at a fever pitch instead of trying to bury the lead. Let's go around the horn first on this one. Big deal, little deal, no deal. Chris, I'm starting with you.
It's a big deal.
Yeah, huge deal.
It's a little deal, but this specific thing happening, but the whole process is a big deal.
Little deal.
It's a massive deal. the biggest of deals.
Paradigm shift, huge.
Ooh, I like it. All right. Knock, why don't you kick us off first on this one? Why is this one a massive deal?
I hate this so fucking much, to the surprise of literally nobody on this panel. But I will say this. I think from like a business perspective, this probably makes sense. I think it's technically sound. I understand why they go this route. People don't want discs. It's really difficult to get the size of these games on a CD or on a Blu-ray disc. It's really difficult to ship 2 or 3 of these out, to have people kind of upload it. When you get a physical disc and you put it into a PlayStation 5, you're going to need a download anyway. I understand the rationale as to why they're phasing this out. It feels like it is maybe a little bit of an obsolete tech. That said, I hate this for so many reasons, because it is the next step in a long line of you're going to own nothing and you're going to be thankful for it. And I think it's bullshit that, you know, Sony is already removing purchases from movies on things that you purchase on the Sony Play Store. If they lose that license, you no longer have access to the movie. There's no recourse for you as a customer. You've paid for a thing that is no longer yours, and Sony has kind of told you to go and get fucked. So I think that that's unfair and ridiculous. And I think that this is a move in that direction, right? You're purchasing licenses for these games. They can be removed from you at any moment in time. If they shut down the game or they shut down the server, they don't have to have an end-of-life plan. I think that these things are terrible. And part of the reason why so many people are drawn to, you know, a 3DS or the Game Boy Pocket or the ability to go back and play some of these physical cartridges is because there's something to owning a thing, plugging into another thing that you own, and being able to play the game you have forever. And I think that there's an argument for the preservation of media and all of these other things. I hate the route that we're going down, but I can't fault them for it because it makes financial sense from a business perspective.
It also feels painful to just have an internet connection that can download an 128 gigabyte thing or whatever. How the games are getting so extremely large now that it's like I might buy it and not be able to play it the same day. Robin, I'm tagging you in next. You call this a paradigm shift. Take us away. Why?
Yeah, I think following what he's saying, 2 things. First and foremost, no offense to you, you're showing your millennial bias here. So I mean, how many of us grew up in the day where it was like a badge of honor to have like the walls of your living room covered with media, whether it was movies, CDs, video games, etc., right? So if you think about Gen A, Gen Z, not only have they not grown up with that, but if you think about it, media is ephemeral. So I look at like, you know, the stuff that my daughter consumes on TikTok, for example, and it's like gone here, gone tomorrow. So That's one thing. We're seeing a cultural shift. The second thing is that Sony, and you got to give them credit, they see the writing on the wall. They're like, we need to get more efficient. We cannot have single growth. We are going to be the only console in town. And so we got to batten up the ship. And so what we're going to see, why I'm calling it a paradigm shift, is because the future is digital. It's aligned with this younger audience. And it also, to your point about like, when do you sunset games, etc. It's like, this is expensive stuff. Like we've been giving away too much of this, and this is the creator perspective, for free for too long. And you know what, if you're only paying $40 or $70 for a game, you don't deserve to have it for, you know, forever anymore. And that is why it's a huge shift in the consumer equation.
Knock wanted to jump back in, and then I'll go to Joe.
He might kill me too.
No, I don't. I mean, I got a bunch of shit. I literally am a guy who stacks all my shit on shelves for people to look at. No, I will just add one thing here. If Sony or Xbox go the route of Nintendo, I am going to fucking kill somebody. I hate this stupid e-cartridge thing that Nintendo has recently introduced, where if I own a game and I have a Switch 2, a Switch, and a Switch Lite. If I want to play a Switch game, I get to choose 2 of those 3 consoles that I can play it on. They're all in my house. They're in different rooms. Sometimes I want to take the Switch Lite on the go. I can't even play my own games anymore because of the restrictions that they put on not owning the physical copy. That did not exist 10 years ago. If I bought a DS game, I can play it on any version of the DS I own, regardless of how many DS I have. That is infuriating as a consumer.
You know where you can play a game, get a game and play it anywhere though, Doc? What model will enable that?
Xbox, baby. Everything's an Xbox.
Well, I was going to say piracy, but
Yeah, listen, Chris,
Linux.
if I can't buy it and I don't own it, then I'm not stealing it.
Joe, you called this one a little deal. Going to you then, Dub.
Well, I guess with how often games are updated, the software is updated, the hardware is updated, the software is updated. I mean, is there really, by owning the game on the disc? I was listening. I have a few things to say about this, but by owning the game on the disc, do you really own the game? I'm not sure that's even true. Right. You know, like the software needs a patch, the hardware needs a patch. Like you're not guaranteed just because you have the game on the disc that you can keep playing that game for the next 50 years and pass it on to your grandchildren. That's not realistic either. You know, I think that the reality is that time of games being a stable product like a Blu-ray is, or a DVD or a VHS are, those days are long gone. And so this is why I think it's a little deal. I mean, Robin's absolutely right. It is a moment in the history of media, but it's a moment we all have seen coming for 15 years. It was just a matter of when it was going to happen. There was never a world in which discs were going to keep getting manufactured here. So for that reason, I think it's a big deal historically, but from a consumer perspective, you know, I was listening to what is it? Games Mess, that is the name of the podcast I listened to, with Jeff Grubb and Mike Minotti, and they have a new guy, but I like when Mike Minotti's on more. But I think that they were complaining that this is unfair because they want to sell the cartridge back. And I'm like, you know, I never thought about that, because I am willing to pay for the convenience of the download at this stage and age in my life. You know, I kind of gave up on physical media. I loved having a DVD collection. I love having a bookshelf because I actually still prefer books. But from a movie perspective, I don't need to own the movie. I can just rent it for $3. Unless I'm going to watch a movie, last thing I'll say, because I'm over time, unless I'm going to watch a movie more than 10 times, it's more economical to rent that movie on Amazon. You know, and there's not many movies I'm going to watch more than 10 times. Now, for kids, different story, but yeah. Okay. Thank you.
Yeah, I'm inclined to agree with you there. I wish Koji was here because he'll spend $40 on a Blu-ray that he'll never watch again. But Dub, over to you.
Yeah, I mean, first of all, I thought Knock would be stoked because it's like, this is just going to make all of those collectibles, the sealed PlayStation games, that whole market is like gone up in value now. There's officially a cap. You know, it's like now
the supply is capped.
Now we know, you know, and for sure this is an insane deal too, because even looking at this picture, if you took 2028 out of this, like you wouldn't know if this was 15 years ago or now. You literally couldn't time date these types of pictures. So for this physical retail to have such a massive change, like, are they going to sell these as like gift cards, like Netflix, you know, gift cards are sold in Safeway now, and that's how I buy games in the future? Like, there's so many different ways that retail is going to, and this is like their lifeblood, you know? So like, it's insane to see. But I also think on the digital side, there's still a lot of room for transformation. I don't think necessarily because we're downloading it, it has to be like we don't really own the thing. You know, like I think Knock's problem of only being able to play it on 2 consoles when he owns 3 is something that will be solved for, and we'll have interesting ways for that. Maybe it's crypto, maybe it's something else, who knows? But I'm looking forward to seeing how digital changes in this process and how like we own things more in a digital way, because people still want that, clearly.
Dub, the fact that I can't play it on all 3 Switch is their solve. Their solve was, we don't want you playing it on all the consoles you have, so now you're locked to 2.
I thought we were a consumer-driven business, dude. I thought we, you know, it take change according to Will's.
There was also, I think Koji also shared this, where there was a screenshot going around of 2 different people trying to buy the same game on the PS store, and it was dynamically priced, where one person was paying $3 for it and somebody was paying $10 for it. And there's a lot of like anti-consumer but price maxing that might happen on the console side now that we've kind of gotten rid of the third party market for used games. And Lems is saying in the comments, Lems in the background, of course, said it wasn't region based. It was also the same region. So it was literally just user profiling that they had figured out. We can sort of maximize, what people will pay for it based on their patterns. Wills, I'm going to you, and I know Chris also wants to speak on this.
Yeah, I'm going to go on a bit of a tangent here because I think it kind of reveals a lot about why at least younger generations don't care as much about this. Because because I was at the landfill the other day, and I was cleaning out I was helping my parents clean out their garage. And like I was talking with my dad about the fact of how crazy it is that we're throwing.
Wait, you were actually at a landfill? You were actually at a physical landfill. I've only seen them on YouTube shows about people who live in them. That's really
no. Unfortunately, not yet, but we're getting there. No, but it's like I couldn't, we were throwing out, furniture because all of this stuff. We live in a world where it's so easy to produce this stuff. The cost of producing this stuff due to, cheap exports, all of that is so low that the value of physical things has gone down so drastically. And you drive through there and it's like there are all these completely usable things that people just don't have value for. People actually have negative value. By having them around, they are actively detracting from people's quality of life because there is so much stuff. And I think that my generation has grown up in a world seeing videos of landfills, seeing videos of overflowing rivers of trash and all of this kind of thing, and really come to realize that actually owning things in that sense, because it's so easy and because you can make things so cheaply, isn't as valuable. And it's the experience that itself that is valuable. And that's happening across the socioeconomic spectrum. If you look at the Wall Street Journal, they're always posting articles about how the super ultra wealthy they're also not as big into owning things as well. It's about experiences. And we've moved into a very experience focused society because the value of owning things is so much lower from just a subjective perspective. And I think that this is the culmination of that. At the end of the day, obviously when it comes down to the wire, owning and how owning a license is a very different experience. But on the surface, and for 99% of people, there is no distinction. It doesn't matter. And that's a shift that we've gone through as a society, which I think is much more interesting and kind of points to the fact that, my generation has moved to much more what? Who's snoozing me? Knock? Yeah, okay. Tell that where's that big wall of stuff? Then my question to you is, where does that wall end up? Where in 50 years, what happens to all of that stuff?
It's a bigger fucking wall, brother. I got 50 more years to collect.
Exactly.
I'm passing it down to my grandchildren, and it will move from generation to generation.
I hope so, Joe. I hope you're able to.
First, I gotta have a kid.
The same love of footballs and figurines.
Joe skipped straight to grandchild.
Efficiency, man. Yeah.
Chris, I'm tagging you in for the last word on this one. You're muted, brother.
Sorry, I was going to say, I was at a flea market the other day, and there was a pirate with one eye and a false leg who told, no, I'm just teeing off of Will's story there. No, I think we're paying a lot. The games industry has been paying a lot for the fiction that you own your game on a disc. You get a disc home, you have a huge day one patch, right? You have all of these ongoing patches and updates and things that complicate the user experience and make it frustrating and unfun. There was a great post from Derek Strickland where he put this in economic terms. He said Sony shipped 70 million game discs in 2025, but they made less than $1 billion from these sales. Sony sold 248 million digital games in 2025, and they made $7 billion on those sales. So the profit margin on digital is just a lot higher. I think what that means is you're going to see more competition for digital distribution. Prices will come down. You'll have more of a variety of price points like you see on Steam. And games can become a day in, day out hobby again instead of being a twice a year luxury product, right? Remember that people only buy on average 2 AAA games a year, right? So hopefully, as painful as this is for people, and I think there's a lot of nostalgia tied up in this. I don't think people are losing very much, and I think it will simplify the hardware and make it a more forward-looking platform, and hopefully make it an easier business to operate.
Go ahead.
No, look, I agree with the sentiment of what Chris is saying, but the idea that like this will make games cheaper is absurd. Like we just saw GTA announce their price points and they don't have a disc. Like these games are going to, if a game developer has the choice between selling a game for $80 and 10 of that is in physical costs, or selling the game for $80 and there is no physical cost, the game is being sold for $80 in either scenario. It is getting cheaper for the developer to deliver that game, but the price of that game will not come down for consumers. We've seen this with everything. We've seen this with gas, with oil. When the price of something moves up, that is the new benchmark for that price. So I agree with a lot of what you're saying. It definitely helps us to streamline hardware. It makes things a little bit smoother. I think that there's plenty of real reasons. Joe mentioned a bunch of them as to why you would want to move away from physical discs, especially because you need a day one patch. But price is not going to come down from a consumer perspective. We're at an $80 to $100 price tag for AAA games. That's where we're going to stay. And if it means I make $85 on a $90 game, or I make $98 or $90 on a $90 game, it doesn't matter to the consumer. You're going to see the same price. The only person who is going to feel this economically is the people delivering the games. They're just going to see a lot more money in their bank account than they would otherwise.
Dude, do you know how many people, by the way, were bummed when Strauss priced GTA 6 at $80 and not $100? Like they were all ready to mark their games up to $100. Like he literally gave away billions of dollars that he could have gotten for GTA 6 just to price cap all his competition.
That I understand, but that's not let's bring the price down for consumers. That's fuck everybody else.
Bringing the price down though is the ability to develop games more quickly and less expensively using both non-AI and AI technologies, and having games like Meccha Chameleon. Meccha Chameleon? Meccha Chameleon. Having Meccha Chameleon sell tens of millions of copies at $6, that puts price pressure on AAA to either deliver a bigger product, and I think we can all probably agree GTA 6 from any objective measure, it looks like a sizable product, or Crimson Desert, right? To deliver that scale that justifies a $50 or $60 price point. That is an effective reduction of price by forcing companies to think, oh, maybe I should be pricing at $20, $30, $40, $50, not $80 to $100, because I can't justify an $80 or $100 or a $60 price point because of games like Meccha Chameleon.
Yeah, we had a conversation on this show, and I'll go to Robin in just a second, but we talked about Slay the Spire 2 and how they priced themselves. I think it was at $30, and whether or not they left too much money on the table by being so affordable. And I just saw a chart the other day. They've sold 7 million copies. So I think you'll take that even if it's at $30, especially for an indie title. Robin, tagging you in.
Yeah, thank you. So I think what it comes down to is a value equation, right? And so I think if we really think about it, the value equation as it relates to gaming has been flawed since free-to-play has entered the building. And so we now have a bifurcation in the market of you've got AAA titles that are now going to be $70 and above, and then you've got things on Steam, let's just say for less than $20. And you've got a few sort of live service games that are, in the midway point. I think that's where the market is going. And it's going to continue to go because the kids that grew up on Roblox, and I hear this in focus groups all the time, they're like, hey, we just want a fun co-op game to play for the weekend. And I have that one buddy that always will buy the game and then the rest of us can play. So that market is not going away. What I think has to happen for the success of our industry is if you think about, and there was like a post that came out about Sean Layden talking about this. I remember John Riccatello talking about this at EA in like 2001. It's like, if your development costs quadruple and you only raise the price of a game $10, you're screwed, right? So we can't go back, but we've been living in this problematic economy. And if gaming at the AAA level wants to succeed and companies stop making bad investment decisions on live service games or franchises that are dead that they're trying to resurrect and whatever, I think it's totally okay to have that price price point at $80. And what's going to happen is you're going to have fewer high quality titles, like the stuff that's coming out of Japan. I'm wrapping up. And people will spend the money, $80 for a title, because it's a really well-made quality title. And I think that's where it's going.
Yeah, it's interesting. I would absolutely spend $100 for Grand Theft Auto, but I would never, ever, ever spend $100 for NBA 2K47, like the minor iterations, or Resident Evil 9. Like I can't be convinced that they're even worth their current price point, let alone if they decided to go
Sam's
up to
limit is
$100
$6.
personally.
But the relative value of a video game like Resident Evil 9 versus a theatrical film is incredible, and so I think that we think about games have been an incredible consumer value for the last 15 to 20 years, right? Price has gone up very slowly, and yes, there's microtransactions, there's ways to increase the value. But if you want to play through a AAA game, that game was the same price, 10, 15 years ago, basically, right? And so finally, there's some price movement, but games have just gotten more and more expensive to make in a lot of ways as well. So it's been actually, and more content, right? Like you used to buy a game, you'd get 12 hours of a campaign. Now you get 50 hours sometimes. Grand Theft Auto 6, how many hours of core and side quests are there going to be in that game? It's an incredible value compared to almost anything else you could spend your entertainment dollar on.
I always take that statement and add in my head ... if you like it enough to play that much. And often I personally don't. It's hard to get me into a new game. And so often it's like I paid $70, like Crimson Desert. I paid $80, and I think I played it for 4 hours, and I was like, fuck, man, I'm still not into it. And I haven't been able to convince myself to get over the threshold yet. So the 200 hours that there is there, I don't get to experience just because I can't do it. With that being said, this segues perfectly into the next topic, which is the average gamer is a 37-year-old white man. And I'm a 34-year-old white man, and I resonate deeply with this. What is the word is the question that I have for you guys. The ESA dropped its annual Essential Facts report. The one doing the rounds is that the average American gamer, again, 37 years old, there is 200 million of them, supposedly. 53% are men, 68% are white. And the headline is, again, 37-year-old white men are the average. With that being said, though, Chris Heatherly already brought up in the last topic something that we have often quoted, Chris especially, which is the average gamer in America is only buying 2 AAA titles per year. And with that being said, shouldn't the 37-year-old white man be able to afford, on average, more than 2 AAA titles? Doesn't this speak maybe to a larger problem that we're having making games for people that can only afford 2 a year at that price point? What's the word for this coming out from this study? Chris, I'll go to you first.
Bullshit.
Concerning.
Shocked.
Totally dubious.
Expected.
Horrific methodology.
Oh, I'm excited for that one. Joe, I'm going to go to you first.
Well, first of all, this doesn't have face validity to it. I don't know how they're defining a gamer, but this can't be possible with 80% of under 16-year-olds playing Roblox on a monthly basis. It's not possible. The average age of a gamer is 37 years old to my off-the-shelf math. But let's just say what does this mean? Let's say there is a segment of gamers where the average age is 37. I guess the only point I want to make is if the average age is 37, is the problem they can't afford more than 2 games a year, or is the bigger or equal problem, and I don't mean to diminish anyone's economic challenges, no 37-year-olds got time to play more than 2 of these games a year. Just what you were just saying, right? How many, you buy a Crimson Desert, hey, you knew what you were getting into. If you're not going to put in 50 hours into Crimson Desert, why even put in more than 1, so I think that is something that does make sense. If the average console gamer is a 37-year-old white man, yeah, there is going to be a lack of throughput because people in their 30s and up do not have time to play 60-hour campaigns more than a few a year.
Great points. I want to go to Robin next. Horrific methodology. You have a background in research. I'm assuming you're gonna tear this one apart. Please take us away.
They've been doing this report for like 20 plus years, and here's the situation. There is no average gamer because right now there is basically, I would say, half a dozen just in North America demographic cohorts. And so I can go through them, but anytime you've got those specific psychographic, demographic cohorts, and then you just say, hey, we're going to average it all, that's how you get a 37-year-old white male. I mean, it's the equivalent to saying like the average American in the US is a 37-year-old white male. So that being said, they're not going to stop. I mean, I think that their messaging has tried in the past to talk about that gaming is almost universal across kids and adults in the US, and everybody games, and they need to stop doing that and really just speak to these specific cohorts. So to answer Chris's point about the average gamer, back in the day, it used to be you had the hardcore gamers that would spend like 10, they would play, 10 plus games a year. They would buy 10 plus games a year. And then it was like a bullseye. Then you had the medium level gamers who would play, a less amount and would buy 3 to 5 titles. Because gaming has gone mainstream, that's how you whittle down to only 2, because there are a lot of people that consider themselves gamers who are just, they're either to the cohorts, they're kids playing on Roblox, they're teen boys playing Fortnite with their friends, they're young males that either play COD or FIFA. There's a whole bunch of console, young millennials and older millennials that just play a variety of titles. Then you've got people who are Gen Xers that grew up and that are over consuming. And then lastly, you have games professionals who are just talking about an audience that doesn't resemble them.
I feel like Robin is smarter than all of us, and thank you for sharing.
Great. Wills, I'm tagging you in next.
Yeah, I don't know. I think this Robin covered basically everything that I was going to say. And I think it's so funny to kind of like look at these kind of like large groups of gamers. And I think that this is what gaming has suffered from for a while, is this ever since kind of mobile hit, the industry was infatuated with this idea that everyone is a gamer. And, we can make a game for everyone. But what we realize now is that that's when you get a game for no one. And I think, I've talked about this dozens and dozens of times. People want material that speaks to them directly. People want content that feels like it was made just for them. And you're going to have a much better time and a much more successful time appealing to those small, specific audiences and monetizing them effectively than you are trying to appeal to the average gamer, because that's not something that actually exists.
Great take from Wills. Chris, tagging you in, then we'll go to Knock.
Well, Robin's analysis was excellent, and I think the other side of the flawed calculus here is, what is a gamer? Because if you look at mobile is half the industry. The industry is roughly half mobile, half console, PC, and right now it's 50-50 between console and PC. If you look at that half of the industry that's mobile, probably 60% of the paying base, and certainly a significant part, and probably maybe even a bigger part of the playing base, are women. So, but a lot of those women won't respond in surveys saying, I'm a gamer. It's the classic, are you a gamer? No. Do you play Candy Crush? Yes. Right. Yeah. There's a lot of people who are playing Wordle every day. Wordle on New York Times, they say that 50% of the subscribers subscribe for Wordle, and those who subscribe or play Wordle, and those who play Wordle have a 50% larger LTV. But that's largely women as well. But they're not. But they don't self-identify as gamers. But they're paying for a game that they play every day. So this is a bit. Then you look at, okay, well, where are games growing in the world? Well, the largest gaming market in the world is China. The fastest growing gaming markets are Southeast Asia, places like the Philippines, Indonesia. It's Africa. It's the Middle East. So it's very hard to make the argument that it's a 37-year-old white male. I think that says a lot more about what people think a gamer is in North America and in the United States than who's actually playing games.
Great point. Knock, tagging you in. What's your thought on this? You said expected originally. What's expected about this?
This is the expected outcome when your methodology is shit. I did do some research into this, and the average American is in fact a 38-year-old white male. That is the average American. So they're off by a year, but close enough. We'll give them half points for getting most of the way there. I think that it's the report in general, I think, was pretty absurd in the way that they defined a gamer. They made notes that, like, 76 to 80% of people played games, and playing games was up to 1 hour weekly, which if you do Duolingo, you count as a gamer under the definition that they put in place for this particular study. There were two metrics on the study that I thought were very interesting, however. 47% of people they've identified as gamers were women, which I think for a lot of people, you think that number would be significantly smaller. And it shows that gaming definitely appeals to both genders pretty much evenly. And the second piece was that console year over year for 3 years in a row now is declining, and it's declining heavily. They said 76% of people on that study use mobile as their primary platform. 52% of the people use PC, but only 43% or 44% used a console as part of their gaming rotation. And that number is down from over 50% just 3 or 4 years ago. So we're seeing a massive decline in console gaming. And I think the rationale there is basically, or the reason for that is, console's not powerful enough to be a PC, and it's not as convenient as playing on your phone. So it sort of fits this middle ground where it doesn't really work for anybody anymore if you have limited time and limited capacity. But the headline was just absurd. The 37-year-old white male is the average basically anything in America.
Great point. We move on. Topic number 5, because we're saving number 4 for Colin next time he can join us. Grand Theft Auto 6 apparently has an in-game social network. Bullish or bullshit. They're going to have a full social network inside of the game, and it's more than just a set dressing for a quest. From what we can tell, this is still heavily rumored, but your in-game phone is going to run a TikTok-esque feed where you can scroll viral videos in real time. You follow, Vice City influencers. You track real-world events as they're happening, and following an influencer might be able to trigger a side mission. There's obvious tie-ins here to the UGC that's been often talked about that we know is going to be in Grand Theft Auto 6. The feed is going to replace a mission marker. You could scroll past a suspicious video. There could be Easter eggs, etc. There could also be follower accounts for individuals being able to grow your own audience inside of Grand Theft Auto 6's social media. Bring people to your server, get people to, you could have people spending money on advertisements in order to get people to buy in-game items that they've created. There is so much that could happen speculatively about GTA 6 having its own social network, but is the idea of having a social network inside of what's expected to be the biggest video game sale of all time? It probably already is based on pre-sales alone. Bullish or bullshit? Chris, what do you think?
Bullshit.
Bullshit then.
Bullish. That this is bullshit. Like, I'll explain that, but go on.
I'm all in on this one.
Yeah,
bullish to the max.
I'm the inverse of Joe here. I'm bullshit to the max.
Bullshit.
All right, Joe, kick us off, man. Why are you
so little? You guys have so little faith in the Rockstar team to make a satire of social media that will, like, I've watched, I've put some time in on those GTA TV stations in GTA 5. I listen to talk radio. I'm playing GTA 4 right now. I rebooted my Xbox just to go back in and play GTA 4. And I love the talk radio stations. If you listen to it, is so funny. And so if they can bring that same creativity and that same spirit of satire to a social media feed with Florida, we've got Florida as the backdrop, like Florida today versus Vice City, Florida 24 years ago or whatever, guys. Like, this is a whole different and absolutely worse, but far more entertaining Florida than we had 24 years ago. And so this is just rife with the potential for delightful comedy, clipping, entertainment. I am so surprised that everyone else is not seeing the potential for entertainment value here.
Let's go over to Knock, and then we'll tag in Robin, both who took the bullshit end of the spectrum. Knock, take us away, man.
Look, Joe actually brought up maybe a piece that I can see playing out well. I'll give you that. I like the vision there, but at best, that is a secondary, maybe even tertiary component to playing the game. The idea that this is going to turn into like some alternative to what we've seen over the course of the years with GTA 5 and GTA Online, with like Twitch streams and Kick streams and YouTube videos around private servers and the lore within those servers and what's going on. I think that this is like absurd. This will never compete with the type of content that exists elsewhere. And Rockstar would be stupid to try and engineer it to do so, because part of the reason why people who don't play GTA are so aware of the cultural significance of GTA is because it permeates every other form of social media on the planet. You cannot escape the role-playing sessions. If you are somebody who watches games at all, you have been exposed to the RP servers on GTA because they exist on other social media platforms. So I think that this is being as like positioned as this will be the hub for media around GTA, which I think is complete bullshit. I don't think Rockstar's stupid enough to attempt that. I also think it's being overhyped, because if it can't be that, what else can it be other than a radio station that every 30 minutes says a line or two that just catches you and you go, okay, what the fuck did they just say? Like, I wish I could listen to that again. That was part of like the experience in GTA 5 and GTA 4. I think that this is like a platform that is really exciting for like a month and a half. And then by month 3 or 4, once the role-playing servers start to get kicked up and people are making content series on YouTube, nobody even remembers that this feature exists in the game.
Interesting. Robin, why'd you take the bullshit end of the spectrum here?
I think it just would be a huge PR nightmare. You know, when you were playing the video, I forgot how completely sexist the first trailer was. And like, I remember doing a LinkedIn post on this about like how many like images of degrading women have I just seen in the last 2 minutes in this video, even though there's a female protagonist. So if I'm old enough to remember all the brouhaha about, you know, killing sex workers, we didn't call them sex workers back then, of in GTA. So I don't think that they are stupid enough to do something like this, though. If they had someone dumb, they'd be like, oh, this is the new metaverse. This is what we could do. So I see how there is some potentiality there, but I think that they're smart enough to say, you know what, we know where we're going to make our money. We want to get as many people as we possibly can to spend their $80 to get them in, so then we can then monetize them on the back end. And they're not going to want to try to get into building the next TikTok, Instagram, etc.
Will's tagging you in, then we'll go to Chris.
Yeah, I don't know, man. It's GTA 6. Everything about this game is bullshit because it's going to work, because it's going to sell, because people are going to use it. If they put anything like this in the game, people will use it and people will find the cracks. They'll make it a PR nightmare. But there is no such thing as a PR nightmare anymore. It's all good. You know, like they're only set to gain from something like this. Like it's bullshit how well this is all going to go for them, no matter what they do. So that's not really a point, but it's like there's no world in which like it sounds just like exactly as you were kind of saying, that it's like a replayable version of the radio. It's about a version of the radio that you can go in and interact with, which is awesome. That's genius. Like that's sick. Like I think, you know, Knock, you're saying it won't have much value in the long-term multiplayer session. A lot of people just experience GTA as a single player game, and that's a lot of the value that it has to people. And if this enhances that experience in any meaningful way, then it's great. Then it's phenomenal. And they've probably got 800 other crazy systems that are way larger and more expansive than this that we're going to be talking about for months on end after it release. This is the biggest game of all time. Like, to think that like this one system is what people are going to be talking about for more than a week is insane, because it's going to be the collection of all of this. And when we're going to be discovering new posts, new interactions, and all of this kind of stuff for years to come.
Yeah, Colin had a great post saying that GTA 6 is post-marketing. He's like, everything that they do is news. And it's interesting to see how they got to that point, because so many other titles have had moments of that. Call of Duty at some point was too aggressive and it was enabling school shooters. Mortal Kombat was ruining the minds of children. And all of them, they didn't necessarily like neuter themselves, but they definitely took a step backwards or at least tried to portray themselves differently, Grand Theft Auto has always tripled down on being the most controversial game. Oh, you think it's bad to run over women with cars? Like, what if you're doing that while you're on drugs now? And it's like they just keep enabling these stories to get more and more aggressive. And that's turned them into literally the biggest gaming franchise in the world, apparently. Chris, what's your take on this one? Why I don't even know what you said. Did you say bullshit or bullish?
I said bullshit, but I was wrong. I meant to say bullish.
Oh, okay.
But I just like the word bullshit, so I anchored on it. I think it's genius. In Club Penguin, we used to have the newspaper, and one of the things we would do in the newspaper is recognize people in the community and things that were going on, and we had this kind of back and forth call and response relationship with the audience where we would tell the big story events, right? We would set things up and then they would do things in the world and then we would talk about them in the newspaper. And so that's one of the places that you could see that interplay. And I think what they're really doing is they're creating a discovery mechanism within GTA and also a social network within GTA for you to connect with your friends and think about it. Everything will be a clip. Everything will be catchable as a clip, and you'll be able to share those clips inside of GTA. They'll be able to curate those and push the best ones into the feed. Those will link to, somebody's GTA, whatever their equivalent of their, Roblox world is, right? And that will be the network through which people discover things to do in GTA. So I think it'll be genius from that perspective. I definitely see the moderation problems that Robin's talking about, but I also think that they'll have AI, and you've never had a better tool set to filter these kind of things.
Joe, I see you lit up.
Yeah, I just think that you'll never be able as a player. I guess one of the things I wanted to add, obviously I'm a fan of this franchise. It's a lot like South Park, right? Like they can get away with anything because they've never made any promise. They have no social contract to do anything but offend and surprise and shock you with whatever. And the reason people like it, I think of all kinds of, just like South Park, I think it has really broad appeal because it's true to somebody. Somebody is, Dan Houser is giving what he sees the world as through this game. And you can agree with him, you can disagree with him, you can think he's a complete jerk, you can think he's out of touch, you can think he is insensitive. He doesn't care. This is how he sees the United States, and it's a brilliant satire. And to not have something like that with this amount of AI, like I want to see what these simulated characters will do. Yes, I want to see the RP servers too, and I want to see what people can do with the interactivity of this game. This is the biggest digital sandbox ever built, right? From what we know, there's never been a bigger simulation with more realism and immersion built in the history of the technology space than GTA 6. This will be a great way to find ridiculous and brilliant things that occur that you will never see as a player otherwise. And so for that reason, again, I'm looking forward to perusing it.
Hey, Joe, yeah. So in Roblox, they introduced an Instagram stories type feature.
Oh my God.
Has that been successful? How's it work for them?
So this was such a, I think, interesting but poorly executed idea that had no real right to exist in a lot of ways. So what the Roblox feature did, I can't remember what it was called, was it allowed you to screen capture things happening in Roblox and post it to a feed of things, a feed accessed through a Roblox app of only things happening in Roblox. Now, it was extremely poorly executed. The frame rate was low. It had a 47% user rating, which any competent game will have an 85+% rating. So it didn't even work. But on its face, it made no sense because what you need is the ability to add voiceover. You need the ability to play games the way you want to with your friends in real time, and capturing that and put into a Roblox only feed. There's not enough entertainment value. There's nothing to see without a commentator. essentially. I mean, at the end of the day, why would you watch a Roblox feed with no voiceover and no picture-in-picture of an influencer when you could be watching those exact same things on TikTok? Doesn't make any sense at all. So this is different though, right? This will have real, this is, playing GTA is like watching your favorite crime show in a lot of ways, right? And this is going to be a whole world that you can now see in vignettes in a way that the Roblox feature, couldn't offer anything in that regard.
There's two things that I think are massive here as well. One is, well, actually, this is an aside, but Lems brought up, I mentioned in a chat the other day, I wouldn't put it past them to just make this an integration with a pre-existing social media app. Like, I think there's a non-zero chance that this either starts out as or evolves into, oh, it's just connected to TikTok now. And you can just ship clips directly from GTA to the network. And also when you pull out your phone, you're just automatically on TikTok. Like, that would be a groundbreaking partnership. But there's only been a couple of social medias, maybe one that started out with 100 million users or more, and it was Threads, which was Instagram or Facebook's attempt at taking over Twitter, and it's actually done pretty well. Threads, I think, is a sustained social media app now. We could say, I don't know the exact numbers on it, but they literally will start with 100 million users on day one, and they will be able to give people a viable pathway to creating a career on these social media apps. Or a career in the Grand Theft Auto ecosystem. Like, if you go on X right now, it is flooded with content that's like, here's how to make $1 million in Grand Theft Auto in the first week. It's nonstop. It's just like the AI boom. Here's how to make $1 million with Claude. Here's how to make 10 grand a week with Claude. It's that same thing 6 months in advance for a game that isn't even out yet. People are going to be obsessed with how to make money in here. And so if part of that is build a following with Grand Theft Auto clips and then drive people to your server, this thing is going to get a ton of usage. And so we could speculate on the implementation and how much people are going to care. But I think they're going to have as good a shot on goal, if not better, than literally any social media app ever has, except for Threads, which basically just injected 500 million Instagram users into their app on day one. So I'm super excited to see where this goes. I'm super bullish on it too. I think if anybody's going to try, they might as well. It's Meccha Chameleon. I'm asking you guys over under 25 million copies sold by the end of the year. The latest thing that we heard was that they've sold about 12 million based on Summer Games Fest going on with Steam right now. They sold, I think, about 10 before that sale even kicked in, but the $6 hit is doing nothing but going up and to the right. The number one selling game in all of the summer Steam sale, by the way, it's not a AAA hit. It's the viral hide and seek game called Meccha Chameleon. If you haven't seen it, you've been hiding under a rock. It's outselling Cyberpunk 2077 while not even really being on much of a discount. The gameplay is stupid simple. You can see it on the screen here. You are a chameleon. You paint your avatar to blend into the environment and other players hunt you down. It is endlessly clippable, which has driven it to amazing heights, and it exploded on streaming. So the line, it's at 12 million right now. What do you guys think? Over or under 25 million copies sold by the end of this year. Really, do you think this thing still has some more steam in it, or is it about to run dry, as we have seen many viral games fall by the wayside very quickly in the past? Chris, you taking the over under here?
Over
2x.
2x, Wills.
I'll go under. Why not?
Under.
It's going way over.
Way over.
Wow. All right. Dub, over 2x. Do you want to justify this 50 million sale prediction by the end of the year?
Brother, this is like my entire Instagram feed for the last 2 weeks. Like, I mean, I have to believe in this one. I didn't even know it was $6. I'm definitely going to go buy it. I think to all the points you brought up, I think it's just getting started. It's one of those ones that people are just realizing, like, oh, I can go play this with a couple friends too. It's the perfect format. It has flexibility for like the 1 to 3 people. And all of just this virality. I think it's just art in the way they have these characters running around the way they do, and seeing the IRL integration and all of these pop-up artists essentially doing Meccha Chameleon, but in real life, and doing them on stop signs and all sorts of things is just like groundbreaking for video games, because it's really hard to break into the real world from these digital IPs, and these guys are already doing it. So that's why I think they have just like a room to run with it.
Doc, you also took quote unquote way over. Tell me why.
Dude, I'm big on things that have existed for thousands of years, and hide and seek is a 2,000-year-old game. This game is so easy for everybody to get involved. It works with literally any amount of people that is more than one person. You can hide literally anywhere. You can play the same map for 14 hours in a row and never be in the same location more than once. It allows for people to express their creativity in the way that they're hiding. I have hidden in the spot that is currently on screen, but instead of on the wall, I was on a stack of papers, and I painted myself to look like the outside of that stack of papers. It is endless expression of creativity, and the amount of like shithousery that can happen in a game like this with your friends is just incredible. To me, this is the next evolution of a game like Prop Hunt or Murder from Gary's Mod, or something like Among Us and Phasmophobia. Like, these are games that are in its core and in its nature about deception and working in groups and hiding from other players. And for me, the fact that they allow you to paint yourself is what makes this game so replayable. I don't see this as a game like others in the friend slop. I'm a big friend slop enjoyer. I play basically every big friend slop game for the last like 2 or 3 years. Me and my buddies get together. We play it over the course of the weekend. We never play it again. It gets uninstalled on Monday morning. I never play the game. I have fun with it, but we never touch it again. This is a game that will become the staple of a lot of friend groups because it's low stakes. It's a ton of fun. And if you're guys in your 30s like we are on a Friday night, you have a couple of beers, you sit down at the computer for a few hours and you paint some pictures. It is a ton of fun. This is a game that will persist. I think 25 million copies by the end of the year is its floor.
Wow. Wills, you took the under. Tell me why.
I'm actually going to throw it at Joe. I'm really curious to hear his take on like how long until this is on Roblox and
yeah.
getting upset? Because if I'm a kid and I see this, why am I going to pay $6, which is like my entire net worth, to play the game when I can just go play it for free on Roblox? And I'd be curious to hear Joe's take on this.
There's probably about 100,000 players playing Meccha Chameleon knockoffs on Roblox right now, concurrently. So it's already happening. But I think that, I'm all for this selling 50 million copies. I think it's great. I have no problem with it. I was just going by the numbers, to double, usually, the game's having its viral moment right now. That viral moment by kind of, a common sense cycle of virality can only last for so long. And so if it's already done 12 million, can it double that? Or does it slowly start to draw down? It'll do 25 million lifetime for sure. I don't think that'll be a problem to clear. But by the end of the year, again, I'm just taking a wild guess based on how sales curves look. But this is a unique sales curve. So, that's my guess. But, $6 price point. Does it go to console at $6? That's a big game changer for the sales potential as well. Does it get featured by PlayStation as a free download for a week and then everyone buys it so that they can join their friends the next week? It certainly could clear 25 million.
I gotta say, I haven't watched a lot of content about this game. I am enraptured every time I look over at the screen.
I'm telling you, dude, it's very addicting.
It's ridiculous. I don't want to double back and like watch it on YouTube after this show, but when it's on the screen, I can't look away. Chris, I'll tag you in, and then maybe we circle back to Will's to see if Joe changed his mind at all.
Yeah, I think the question is not whether it's going to go over 25 million, but how far over it's going to go. Its sales are already telling you that it's going to end up over 25. But if you look at Among Us, which is a lot of these friend slop games kind of top out at like 10 or 15, but I think it's pretty clear that this is going to go higher. I think this is more like Among Us. Among Us sold 650 million copies. And the thing about a game that's simple, that everybody knows how to play, like Among Us or hide and seek, in this case, is that everyone can play it, right? Everyone on the planet can play it, and I think it's got that, sensibility to it that people who don't normally play games would play this game, which is what happened with Among Us. So I think there's no real audience cap to it. And the other thing is that, as I think Knox said, it's very repeatable with the painting. You can do all kinds of emergent gameplay in it that the developers didn't even think of. So I think it's got amazing potential. One other point is there was a great comment from Jacob Navok about this, and he was talking about how someone was making a point about AAA gaming being down and everything, and Meccha Chameleon being this outlier, and he was like, it's not an outlier. Friend Slap is not an outlier. This is a clear pattern. And it's clear that Gen Z likes to play these kind of games. And I think that, there's always been a strong shooter bias in the gaming industry, and especially amongst very AAA, very core gamers. And I think you're seeing that a younger generation of gamers are just a lot more casual, and clearly what they want to do is play with friends.
There's a great comment from Lems in the background here. He says Peak quickly shot to 10 million sales, but it dropped off, and he doesn't think it's even broken 20 million, which I do think is a relatively good comparison. Knock, I'll double back to you, then let's tag in Robin.
Yeah, I think the problem with a game like Peak, which I did play a ton of as well, is that Peak limits the number of people you can play with 4. The map changes on a weekly basis or like on a 72-hour basis, so you really can't play. There is not baked in repeatability like there is with a game like Meccha Chameleon. The other thing that's interesting about Meccha Chameleon is that it enables peer pressure in the absolute best way possible, which is simply, it's really fun for me to be hiding from Sam and Dub laughing alongside me that Sam can't find me, but it's way more fun if Chris and Wills and Joe and Robin join in as well, and now we're all laughing at Sam because he can't find me. And because the game is priced at $5 or $6, it's really easy for a friend who doesn't normally play to be like, all right, whatever, I'll jump in for $5, we'll play it. And then within a round or two, you realize it was a lot of fun. There's some pressure here. I got 3 minutes to find a place to hide. You're laughing at each other because some friends can't get in. This is a game that I think can sell exponentially within friend groups. Normally with a friend swap game, we get 4 guys to play it because that's what you're allowed to play within the game. We play it over the course of the weekend, something like RV There Yet, and we never played again. But with this, on Monday night, we played it last week. There was 3 of us. By Thursday night, there was 5 of us. And on Saturday, there was 11 of us in the lobby playing this game together. And I think the fact that it is social by nature, it encourages you to bring in your friends. This game can see a sales curve that is exponential instead of regular, a flat growth or linear growth. So for me, I think that 25 million probably gets hit well before the end of the year. I think that this game is going to explode.
Robin, I'm excited to hear why you took the way over as well, but I'm curious too if Joe was able to convince you at all, and Wills as well, with the idea that, like, we had a game, what was it called, Only Up, where it was completely viral. You basically just, jump up on these objects forever as far as you possibly can. And I think it took 48 hours for that viral hit to be recreated in UEFN. And then I'm sure it was recreated in Roblox as well. And it kind of took the steam out of it. Not that it sold 0 copies after that, but it certainly wasn't the only way you could get that kind of gameplay experience. And obviously those are free alternatives. Does that change your opinion at all? Or are you still in the way over 25 million camp?
Yeah, I'm still in the way over. But first, I just want you all to know that I'm in Colorado and I like to hike. But what I think Knock and Chris have made some really great points, which is you have a universal game mechanic here, right? Hide and seek. You've got something that is creative, that is leveraging what we're seeing culturally. As it relates to younger generations wanting to play together and being less competitive, quite frankly, which is why I think we're seeing the decline of competitive shooters for the most part. So that's why I think it's going to stay and grow. Now, I think, again, there's a bifurcation in the market of 20-somethings who are willing to spend $5, $10, and again, like Knock, just like play for a weekend, right? I think that this game can hit that more mainstream 20-something audience. It doesn't really matter if there are knockoffs on Roblox because that's a separate audience. I love that, the $6, they're not going to spend their grandparents' gift cards on this game. But a lot of those kids don't have access to Steam right now anyway, so it doesn't really matter. So I put it more in the Among Us category with just, universal game mechanic, ability to have a ton of fun and be creative with your friends. Yeah, I think it's going to be on fire.
It's a great point, and I can't imagine at least 5 different people in my life that do not like games that I'm pretty sure I could convince to try this, and they would have a really good time. And that's always a good sign for a complete outlier. Knock, you wanted to jump back in?
Yeah, just one more thing that I'll say that I think is a little bit different with this game versus the more traditional friend slop. Look, I love them, but if we're being real, friend slop is mostly targeted at like frat boys. Like most of those games are frat boy-ish games. Things like Schedule 1 or Lethal Company or Are We There Yet is mostly about over-the-top ridiculousness, beer, drugs, alcohol, you name it. They typically tend to be within that game. This game has none of that. This game has a little guy who runs around weird and the ability to spend 3.5 minutes painting under pressure. I think it by nature has a much larger TAM as well than something like an RV There Yet, which, not everybody thinks driving an RV through an obstacle course while drunk is a great example, or a great experience.
Well, I think as I see more of the gameplay, because I've been following the story kind of, but I haven't been watching a lot of the gameplay. I actually think this will be great on a touch screen,
It would be
and
sick.
that at a $2 or $3 price point, they could easily blow away that. So I'll assuming that they can have some platform expansion, I'll go with over. But a lot of people, you guys talk about bringing your friends on to play who aren't very hardcore gamers. Those people don't have Steam accounts or gaming PCs, so they're not going to probably get a Steam account and a gaming PC or a gaming setup and deal. I mean, geez, setting up a gaming PC, even putting Steam on a regular PC, getting it all connected for multiplayer, that's a lot of friction. That's a lot of friction, and I don't think anyone's going to do that just to play a hide and seek game. Now, I'd love to be wrong about that, but my point is, get on mobile, get on console. Yeah, they could double their sales from Steam. That does make a lot of sense.
Last thing I'll say
I
here,
would
Sam,
really-
is you've never experienced fear, like 30 seconds on the clock, and you still don't have a spot.
Like this guy's experiencing right now. Joe, Chris, Robin, and Wills, whoever has a perspective on this, I'm curious. So Meccha Chameleon famously was made a very short time period, very little developer resources, honestly, pretty inexperienced developers at that. What is a reasonable timeline for them to be able to get this onto an iPad, approved by the App Store, functioning well on iPhones, etc.? Oh, did we crash? What just happened? Lems, save us. Hello?
Everybody hide.
Oh, we're back. All right. What do we think is a reasonable time frame? I guess, what do you think they need to be able to do in order to kind of salvage like the momentum that they have and get it onto something where they could have, a ton of App Store sales? And then what do you think they actually will take from a time perspective? Is 6 months, a year, 2 years in order for them to accomplish that? What do we think? Anybody that has a strong opinion?
If this is made in Unity, I mean, it's not a extremely complex game. All the anything that works, on a PC, can work essentially on a touchscreen in a lot of ways. So I'm not technical, but if it's made in Unity or even Unreal, the porting process can be pretty quick, I think. Tell me if anyone disagrees. It's hard to say exactly, but there's no reason it can't be done,
especially with the
in a couple
$millions
months
that they've made.
You bring in a porting studio.
This is a very easy thing to get someone to come in and port. Like I don't see it taking very long, and I think that every one of the panelists is exactly right. Like, it's going to be about time to market for this kind of thing. While it's still hot, while it's still buzzing, I still don't necessarily know if I'm sold on the longevity of a game like this. I definitely think it's exciting, and it will remain exciting for the next 2 weeks. But it hasn't really revolutionized anything. Yes, it's tapped into a lot of cool, fun mechanics that anyone can play, anyone can get into. But long term, like the reason Among Us saw so much growth and saw such long-term success was because everyone was literally trapped at home. We don't have that same market cycle that we used to. And I think it's going to continue to do well over under the 25 million mark. I wouldn't be surprised, but it's just the longevity of a game like this, like, because the dev time is so short. If I'm this dev, I'm thinking, okay, yeah, I'll send it out to someone to get all of the ports done, get it all. And then I'm going to go make something else because this took me 4 months, if that. Yeah.
Something though that I learned about this type of game, because I was making a Among Us like game, is that there are a lot of groups out there that just play like party games on Friday, Saturday nights, and they're, and one of the big like limitations on that is if they want to get all of their friends playing the same game, then, and somebody has to download it and it's a big game or it costs a lot of money, then that person's out or it takes a long time and it messes things up. And so part of the reason that Among Us has become the go-to for so many people, and it's still one of the most played games in the world, is just that everybody's got it. It's a small download. It's easy to get in and out, parties in and out, and I think that this game has that going for it. So, I don't think that this game gets blown away by like a GTA 6 or something like that. Like, I think this game lives very happily side by side with that. It is kind of counter programming to that at a certain level.
One of the things that was really interesting with this game, for at least for our group, was, when you load in, there are, I think, 4 or 5 default maps. But just last night, I played on Dust, Blood Gulch, Summoner's Rift, and Nuketown, right? And I think like the ability to jump into familiar maps that people have recreated for you to kind of hide in the spot, like it was really fun to like move past the 3 or 4 maps that they created and just start downloading all the most random shit that we could find on the Steam marketplace to then hide on, right? So there's like infinite replayability, but there's an obvious community of people here who are trying to recreate maps that maybe they enjoyed, they played on a game as a kid, they wanted to recreate it so that them and their friends can hide on it. Like Summoner's Rift legitimately had actual champions from League of Legends on the map, like real Poros. You had Cho'Gath and a bunch of other champs. It was an incredible experience. So for me, it's like, every month if you come back to this, there's 50 more maps that you want to try out and hide on and play with your friends.
Oh yeah,
I don't know if that means they're going to make more money. Like, what do? You sell skins and a thing where you paint over yourself? Like, I'm not sure how much more they can milk out of the stone.
Oh yeah,
here.
from like a money perspective, I think they're fucked. But from this, like, there's no incremental monetization on a game like this. But from a copies perspective, I mean, look, it was 2 guys over 4 months. I think they're happy with the $50 million they've made thus far.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, now give me your MVP of the day as we wrap up today's episode.
I'm honestly split 50-50 Joe versus Robin, but Robin, you were new, you came into the team. I do this with everybody. You shot the shit, you fired back, you brought real information, and for a panelist who gives the other panelist shit for not bringing data, you brought plenty of it. So Robin, you're my MVP.
Love to see it. Chris, who you got for MVP this week?
Robin's my MVP. She nailed it today.
Nice work. Dub, who you got?
Yeah, Robin, hands down. She made me feel smart.
That is a true accomplishment. Wills, who you got?
Robin for making me feel dumb, actually, is why she's getting my vote.
Similar but different. Joe, how about you?
I also nominate Robin.
It's a clean sweep. Robin, who's your MVP of the day?
You know what? You guys have just given me so much love and compassion. You all are, like, to be a newbie on this, and you've been totally gracious, and I've so enjoyed my time, and really this has been delightful, and I hope you invite me back. So kudos to all of you. You are all MVPs in my book.
I love that. Robin, well, winning the MVP means you get 60 seconds of FaceTime. Plug anything you want. If you have a newsletter, you want people to follow you on LinkedIn, you got a new project coming out, whatever it may be, take us away. The floor is yours.
All right. So basically, I'll just tell you a little bit about what I do. So I obviously post a lot on LinkedIn about gaming, but my real business is actually doing customized market research surveys, focus groups, competitive analysis, usability testing in both video gaming and in media and tech. So like, for example, I'm doing a lot of a lot of interviews right now around AI with IT professionals. But nice. The bulk of what I do is really helping game developers build a better game through, usability testing, playability testing, surveys, and stuff like that. So if you guys know of anyone that's interested, hit me up.
Amazing. We'll put your LinkedIn in the comment or in the description of the YouTube video and any of the comments also for the clips and stuff that we put out there. So if you guys want to reach out to Robin for any of that, follow her on LinkedIn. And thank you so much for joining us. It was a real pleasure. Very excited to have you back in the future. And thanks everybody for making another great episode. 166, my God, 3 years of doing this show. And I'm still looking forward to it every single week. We'll see you back here, same time, same place next week. Thanks, guys.